making money is actually a game. And what happens when you play a new game? First, you got to learn the rules. Like, how does the game work? So, for example, in my call center, I made $27K a year. If I wanted to make six figures, there's only one person in the call center that did that, the GM of the whole call center. That GM was in a position just like mine and was at the call center for like 12 years. So that's the rules. If I want to make six figures at this call center, I need to work 12 years. And I have to show up on time and do good. Those are the rules. Now, you could say that's unfair. Like, that's too long. Doesn't matter, because that's the rules of how the call center six-figure strategy is played. And same with making money online, affiliate marketing, running ads. All these are different rules. So first you have to learn how to play, and then you have to understand and ask this question. And I ask this for whether you're an entrepreneur or 9-to-5er. Am I in the right game? Because when I realized it's going to take me 12 years to make six figures, I was like, I think I'm in the wrong game. I need to learn a different game.
Welcome, affiliate listeners, to another wonderful, brilliant, amazing episode of the Affiliate Babe Podcast. And it is none of those things because of me, but it is because of the guest that we have today. We have an amazing guest who has really seen it all from the affiliate side in terms of starting out, having to reset from a career that felt like it was going to be right. The pandemic hit, and it's like, oh no, that's not. Shifting some things around and really finding not only amazing success, but some other really key important things in terms of how to maximize the money that they were making, so you could really, really take whatever this wild internet world is and turn it into a legacy and something special. In fact, it's such an impactful message. It's such an impactful thing that has changed his life. He even wrote a book about it to help change the lives of so many other affiliates out there, entrepreneurs, and honestly, just everyday people doing everyday things and taking those dollars and turning them into something so much more. With that, our guest today that's going to be sharing some of this amazing message with you as well is Adrian Brambila. How are you doing, Adrian?
What's up, man? Good to see you, Kyle.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. I will say, even before we jump too far in, next time in Austin, I am definitely taking you up on the cold plunge, because it would have beat my cold shower this morning. A plunge is always so much nicer. So,
oh, nice. You're training for it. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I'm warming myself up. I'm thinking, so in Idaho, it obviously gets really cold up here. And so January, on New Year's Day, they always do a polar plunge. So they go to the local reservoir and everyone just jumps in, in amazing. January, and like probably sub 20 degree temperatures. So I imagine that water gets pretty cold. And I was like, I think I'm ready for it. I think I'm going to go do the polar challenge this year. That sounds like a fun time. So I'll be sure to send a video of me freezing in the water.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk less about me, cold in water, but let's talk more about you. And specifically, what I'd love to do is if you could just tell the people a little bit about your background and kind of what led you up to writing this book, because I think this book is going to be really impactful. I'm so excited to talk to you about some of the things inside of it. But before we go there, let's get the preamble of kind of what you were doing, what led you to being such a, successful individual in this industry.
For sure. I think the first person that really changed my idea of how to create success was T-Pain. I used to dance for him back in the day. And that alone, to get to that position, was a miracle. I actually learned how to dance, started when I was 18, and I watched YouTube videos of people doing the robot. And that's how I learned. After 2 years, T-Pain had an open call audition, and I submitted a video, and I made it to the audition, which to me was the huge life accomplishment. And I had no idea that I was going to be selected along with some other dancers to actually be a professional hip hop dancer. Because when that happened, it was like one day a living room dancer, next day I'm on tour with T-Pain, and it was wild. The thing about being around someone like T-Pain is he's not. I'm 35 now. He must be 40. I think he's 5 years older than I was. So when I was seeing him as a 20-year-old, he's mid 20s, and he on the surface looked like he had so much success. He had a mansion. I remember the first time I went there was like 30, I kid you not, 30 pimped out vehicles. The one I'll never forget was a super monster truck out of a Mini Cooper. Like, he's just spending
that sounds
money,
ridiculous
right?
in the best way possible. Yeah.
It was. And so one day he launched a song in front of us. This song was called Reverse Cowgirl, by the way. It's not a Western, and don't recommend it. Not a very good song. when before we launched it, he's like, "Hey, you guys want to see the music video and hear the song before it drops?" Like, yeah. So he plays a song, we watch it, and then he looks over at his manager like, "Hey, you guys ready?" Yeah. So he launches it, and this is back then iTunes 99 cents a download, and I watched basically those like analytics hitting the refresh. It's like after a minute, it was like 100, 400, 300, or 700,000. And then after like a few minutes, it was like over 5 million-ish downloads. And so I was comprehending this, trying to. I think he just made $5 million in like minutes. And so that to
Yeah.
me was like a moment that really changed my perception of what I thought it meant to be successful and what's necessary to create wealth. Because how I was raised in a Mexican household, my dad immigrated here, is you have to work hard and you have to sacrifice, which most people would say that is true, except it comes from a place of scarcity. And I talk about this in my book, Start Thinking Rich. It's actually a scarcity mindset, because T-Pain and people that are really wealthy, they actually don't leverage those kind of psychological factors like sacrifice, and it has to be painful and you have to work hard. And this is where this whole belief of mine got challenged, because after T-Pain launched the song, he didn't go back into his office on his laptop and create ads or anything like that. He went to the couch, he popped open a bottle of this drink that he has called Nuvo, and he got drunk, and it was like 10 a.m. So I was like, wait a second. He just made $5 million in minutes. He doesn't look like he's struggling. It wasn't painful. He actually had fun, and he's partying because he just is like lavishly living this successful life. So to me, I was like, where's the hard work and sacrifice? Now, sometimes we make that conclusion off of meeting an internet person or personality. You just think that they all landed for him. T-Pain, he has an amazing story, but that to me challenged the way I think. And today I do believe, you have to work hard and sacrifice, but I think those are just survival skill sets. But when you operate from like in a place of abundance, like I do now, I think the more value I create, the more money I make. And that's a totally different script than I need to work hard and I need to sacrifice. It needs to be painful. And I think it's actually a better place to operate from.
No, I love that switch. I think, like you said, it's like if I create value, like money as a resource will come, right? It just comes through that process. And I think the great thing is you might need to grind and sacrifice in terms of what you're doing and learning to create value, but that's not going to be forever, right? It's a mastery moment. Like we know that T-Pain obviously has worked hard and grinded in his life to get to a point that he didn't have to any longer. And I think I love what you said, because oftentimes I think there's this mindset that it's just hard work and sacrifice. And then one day you retire and you're like, it's funny because I see this oftentimes with, a lot of boomers, even sometimes my parents, like they're getting close to these retirement ages. And it's like, what do I do now? Because there was so much hard work and so much sacrifice, you kind of forgot what the whole point was. And then it's like, my stepdad was even struggling to retire. He's like, why would I even retire? Like, what am I going to do? And so that's one of those ones that always stands out to me, because I'm like, we should be grinding and sacrificing to create value so we can leverage that value, so we don't have to grind and sacrifice for the things that we want to do. So I love that. Well, let's dial back a little bit. So you saw T-Pain just make $5 million and crack open Nuvo and get loaded at 10 a.m., which is probably a pretty unfamiliar experience for most of us, but very enlightening. So how did you go from that dancer phase to start kind of building your own wealth and kind of stepping into this affiliate world?
Well, as a dancer, some people in college that met me before and after or knew me throughout the whole time, they thought after I was done dancing, I already made lots of money. But the truth is, I did not have a proper agency, like talent. And so I was a street dancer, living room dancer. And because I didn't have representation, I always got screwed. Not by T-Pain, want to protect his name, but like management. I did really cool stuff like Step Up 3D, like the music video and all this stuff, and I never got paid. So I was living off a per diem of $35 a day. So I actually had more money when I started dancing than when I was done at touring. I had less.
Oh my
so
gosh.
when I went back to college, and I wanted to keep dancing because I loved it, but I didn't really care about being a full-time dancer and pursuing and moving to LA. So I went to YouTube. and I started posting videos. This is in Dubuque, Iowa, which is not a happening place to be a pro dancer, by the way.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
known for the street dancers, I hear.
yeah, there's just people always like, it's like New York, right? People are just spinning
Yeah.
on in their heads, just like
Yeah.
Dubuque, Iowa.
All the time. That's actually where it started.
So I basically started posting videos on YouTube, and I just naively thought that I would just make money from just posting on YouTube. This is back then, YouTuber is not a common word like it is today. So I would tell people in Dubuque, Iowa, that I was posting on YouTube as a side hustle, and people were like, isn't that where cat videos go? So it was like,
yeah, that's
it was so early, and I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know anything about affiliate marketing, and because I did not know the even fundamentals of business, after 2 years, I finally made my first money. It wasn't from a business; it was from AdSense. It was 45 cents. So that's my sacrifice. And you don't know my story. You think it's easy for me today. Would you work 2 years for 45 cents? Because that's what I did. After 2.5 years, I launched my first product because, thankfully, I need to remember this subscriber's name because the subscriber actually told me what I should do. He's like, Adrian, you have all these dance tutorials. If you were to create a premium tutorial that was more organized, maybe that longer, like an hour, I'd buy it. And so I did. And when I created that, it was the first time I made $1,000 online. I think when I launched, it was like in that day, but essentially it was for the whole month afterwards. So it was like $1,000 month, which was life-changing. I was in Dubuque, Iowa. I was working at a call center and made $27,000 a year. So that $1,000 was crazy. And this is where I had to also.
You might have busted open a Nuvo right after that too. You know, really just at 10 in the morning thought, I'm living my T-Pain life right now.
Dude, it's so true. But what's funny is my money script was still really intact, that I had to work hard and sacrifice, because that's what I felt at my 9 to 5. It was a painful job. Working in customer service at a call center. I did not enjoy it. It felt hard. It felt like I was sacrificing my life to sit in a cubicle. I felt it. Yeah. And so when I made the money, it felt right. It's like I'm working hard. I was making almost minimum wage, pretty much. And then when I made $1,000 online, I was like, I actually felt guilty when I should have felt like T-Pain and celebrated. I felt guilty because I didn't work hard, because I was literally dancing. It's something I do for fun. I didn't sacrifice because I'm here doing this by choice. Like, I love dance. Like, dance is my whole identity. And I made $1,000. So I had to work through that. It took a while to basically say, you know what? Making money actually isn't just about sacrifice and hard work. It can be fun. It's kind of like a game. And I changed my mindset to that, like a video game, because I'm a nerd. I played Zelda. Do you play Zelda?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. Final Fantasy?
Dude. Final Fantasy VII definitely substantially changed. That was an eye-opening experience for me. I'd played 3 on SNES, then 7 came along, and I was like, "What is this?" To this day, I still like probably once every 5 years I'll just replay 7 like on my phone, because it's just a perfect RPG. So
I love it.
Yeah, one time I'll have to tell you. Actually, Final Fantasy IX centers around my favorite Christmas ever. So really? Yes, I'm a nerd for sure. Yeah. Okay. So, awesome.
Then you'll love this.
We'll have to share this because side note, one of my favorite things when I used to work at call centers, getting people to do retention and be human beings on phones. It's a real challenge, right? So, one of the big things I was trying to get people to express and be emotive positively, especially if they need to talk about a service or something like that, sell something or get people to buy something again, was I'd tell them, tell me about your favorite Christmas present. Like, just walk through it, because it brings out, like, as you get people describing it, brings out nostalgic emotions. They work through that pain, and then they go back and channel into that pure, unbridled joy. And if you can't talk enthusiastically about the best gift you've ever received, you just might not be able to sell anything ever. So, but anyway, that's always one of my favorite questions asked. Feel free to steal it, any of those listeners out there. It's a fun one. It's fun for parties that are getting a little bit dry too, because you'll bring up a lot of good positive feelings and connections with people when you do that.
I love it.
So, but yeah, so anyway, as we derail on some of that stuff, so I actually want to talk a little bit more, because I really love what you talked about there, is you actually felt guilty originally when you'd made this money, because you said, hey, it didn't fit in these lines of, hard work and sacrifice. So curious, because I've actually seen some people, I think, have that happen to them. And oftentimes what they do is they just double down on the work and sacrifice instead of ever letting themselves enjoy or sit back and go, this is really cool. There's like, sweet, I'm going to make this miserable somehow. So could you talk a little bit about maybe what you had to do to reframe that piece? Because I feel like that would be a challenge, to say the least.
Yeah, I think this is why I brought up I'm glad you're a fellow gamer, Kyle, because this is the mindset that I took on in order for me to continue my side hustle without feeling guilty. Because being guilty and growing a business is not a fun way to go. So I changed it into think of it like it was another video game that I was playing, like Zelda. And it makes sense online because you don't usually get cash. Like you actually sometimes old school affiliate programs will send me a check, but mostly it just is on my dashboard. It's on my analytics, it's on my ads, it's on my impressions. It's all these data points, and then it turns into money. It feels like a game. So I really like this mindset. It's really hard to adopt if you're in a position of survival. It's like a game. I can't even pay rent. You call this a game? And
Yeah.
I understand that. But I think it's healthy to operate in, because what if making money was fun? And that's kind of what I turned it into, of like, dude, I'm having a blast. I'm teaching people how to dance and I'm making money throughout the process. I can have fun and make money. And this was something, again, I did not grow up with this mindset. I had to create it and learn that like making money is actually a game. And I still feel like making money is a game today. And what happens when you play a new game? First, you got to learn the rules. Like, how does the game work? And right away, I think there's a chapter in a book that says only poor people think the system is rigged. By the way, poor, I don't mean people that have no money. Actually, I mean a way of thinking, and it's really because they don't have this outlook that making money is a game. So, for example, in my call center, I made 27K a year. If I wanted to make six figures, there's only one person in the call center that did that, and it was the GM of the whole call center. That GM was in a position just like mine and was at the call center for like 12 years. So that's the rules. If I want to make six figures at this call center, I need to work 12 years and I have to show up on time and do good. Those are the rules. Now, you could say that's unfair. Like, that's too long. Doesn't matter, because that's the rules of how the call center six-figure strategy is played. And same with making money online, affiliate marketing, running ads. All these are different rules. So first you have to learn how to play, and then you have to understand and ask this question. And I ask this for whether you're an entrepreneur, 9 to 5er, am I in the right game? Because when I realized it's going to take me 12 years to make six figures, I was like, I think I'm in the wrong game. I need to learn a different game. And that's when I went the entrepreneurship route in YouTube. But some people are not meant to be entrepreneurs. Like some of the rules of entrepreneurship are your main traffic strategy might disappear overnight. How's your business going to do? If your Facebook account, if you're an ads guy and all of a sudden it showed up, it disappears. How do you stomach that volatility? Is it going to create a lot of stress and damage in your life because you're a big spender and you have nothing saved? Then like maybe you shouldn't be cut out for entrepreneurship. You might need something more stability, or you need to rewire your habits. So understanding first that making money is a game is a great mindset, and first understanding the rules, how to play, and then asking the honest question, are you playing the right game?
I love that. I love that so much. Particularly, we go back to it. It's like, if you just state the game you're playing, the game you're in, and understand the rules of it, you could remove the emotion, the judgment to that scenario, right? Like, I love the way you put it. It's like, listen, at the end of the day, there's hey, that's not fair. It's like, it's not about fair or not. It's like, this is the rules of the game. Now, if you don't like that, you should find a different game to play. Like you said, whether it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's a different profession, a different company. If you're a call center work, you're like, dude, this is going to take way too long. Great. What's going to take faster? Where's a place that maybe I could have more control over my income now, right? So maybe it's like, hey, I want to go from customer support to sales, whatever that might be. But, defining the rules of the game, what you want, and then finding where that best fits for who you are is so powerful. But again, I like what you said. It's just define the rules of the game. Like, what is that game? I find anyone listening, if they just reframe their mind to that, I think the entrepreneurship world will get a lot easier for you. Because one thing that we didn't talk about that I think games are really powerful, and I actually talk about this with my kids all the time, is games teach us failing is okay. It's one of my favorite things about video games that I always learned as a kid. So it's like, failure is just a lesson to learn what not to do next time. So you're going to go back to it. You're going to try a different strategy. Sometimes like, yeah, okay, that worked, but it didn't work well enough. I want to try a different, better way. It's just failure is not a problem in games because there's always a reset, there's always another chance. And as weird as it sounds, business is very similar. There's always another chance. There's always another thing to go do. Like the amount of entrepreneurs I know you've met, Adrian, that is like it's their fifth business is the one that changed everything for them. It's gonna take some lessons and some failings to get where you want to go. And if you could gamify your mindset, those failings don't come with such a heavy burden towards who you are and who, like, I think, just all this weight, right? Like, oh my gosh, I suck. I can never do any of this. I'm never going to be the call center manager because I made a mistake. It's like, no, dude, like, you're going to make a mistake. That's part of the game. Get in there, reset, try again, and just keep going. So no, just beautiful mindset. I love that. So let's kind of go back in the stories. We weave the book in here because I'm going to reset and we'll go talk specifically about the book too. So you found yourself switching to this game mindset. How did that shift and change as you're making videos on dance? You have your course now. When you flip to this game mindset, what did you see change in your business and how did it kind of start growing?
Well, I think this is where I first learned about the game of affiliate marketing because I actually was a content creator for 3 years and never heard of this concept. And then a subscriber of mine, and for many, in those last 2 years now, I probably had around like 50,000 subscribers. And all the time, I was responding to comments like, Adrian, where'd you get that snapback? Where'd you get that crew neck? Tell me about those Skull Candy headphones. Like, oh, I got it from here. I got it from here. I got it from here. And then finally, a subscriber of mine was like, Adrian, if you sign up for the affiliate program on Skull Candy headphones, you'll make a commission. And I was like, what? So then I signed up for it, and that person waited, and I commented back with my link, and that was my first time I made money as an affiliate. And then that unlocked a whole new world for me. It's like, whoa, I can make money from headphones without creating a headphone. Awesome. So then I started thinking about I created like this ultimate dance resource page that had all these dance products, like that were the products that I'd use, clothing, and a lot of it, to be honest, did not make a lot of money. But I was trying. There was back then I would call it a high ticket product. It was like $250, and it was literally a portable wooden floor. Like back in New York, like they would literally tape concrete, or they'd tape a cardboard to the concrete, they'd spin on it. But someone made a portable like wooden floor that it rolled up, and then you roll it out. And that was like a huge affiliate product. I was like, you need this so you can dance anywhere, backspin anywhere. So I was like trying all these affiliate stuff, and that's when I learned about it. And then something very realistic happened when you turn your passion into a business. I got burnt out. I stopped dancing. My dance business, which I'm so glad I started, because one year in 2015, I was always had a 9-to-5 until my side hustle made enough to cover my 9-to-5, which was $50K a year in Iowa. That was 2015, and it finally did. And then I quit. And then I feel like my entrepreneur career exponentially, income, business, profit started growing like crazy because I had full focus on entrepreneurship. But it was also in those years, I think the following year, I was like, dude, I don't want to dance anymore. Like, I'm so burnt out. Like, I'm answering people's tutorial questions and dancing. And that's what happens when you turn your passion to a business. So sometimes a lot of entrepreneur advice is follow your heart, turn it into money. And I'm like, dude, I used to love dance. And now, like, I usually only dance like on stage, like when at a business. Like, I'm not like on the floors, like getting down anymore. It's because I got burnt out. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have kind of continued this momentum of exploring different games and trying different ways to make money. I've tried everything except for selling feet pics.
There's still time. I guess, I don't know. You might have some gnarly feet, but that could still be valuable, I guess, right? Just don't have average feet that are everywhere. So that's awesome, man. So then you're at this period, because I love that you brought up the burnout thing, because I think that is very real. And, I think more people need to be very honest about what it means to turn a hobby into a business, a passion into a business. And there's a balance in there, because as soon as it becomes a business, it can't ever be a hobby again, meaning that it's always work. And where I think something that you love could be good for a while, but it definitely shortens up the half-life on that thing that you love, right? Like, it's going to shrink it up a little bit faster. So I think that's great. So now you're in that burnout phase. You're like, I got to start doing other things. What was the thing that hit for you? Where did it go? Oh, this makes sense. And you're able to transition from this kind of creator selling affiliate products to being a master affiliate.
Um, I feel like I was experimenting with affiliate marketing and drop shipping, and and I didn't understand anything about collecting leads and the power of like all that. Most of the business secrets are on the back end after you capture a lead. I didn't get that. I just thought I have to sell this one thing a lot of times to many different people, which is like I can actually think that's how most beginner entrepreneurs operate from, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're making it so much harder to do this strategy. But you sometimes you learn the hard way, or hopefully you listen to this podcast and be like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to sell one thing a lot of times versus nurturing the customer afterwards, which is totally different. And so I was uh, trying to understand trends and then creating offers based off trends. I mean, macro trends. So for example,
Mm,
one of the first ones was Pokemon Go. When it first released, I don't
yeah.
know if you remember, but everywhere you went, everyone was
It
playing
was
it.
wild. Yeah, I
Wild.
remember. I was one of those people
Me
I
too.
was like, sweet, I'm going to walk every single lunchtime and before
Yes.
lunch and yeah, all the time. It was great.
So then my first offer was and this was before drop shipping. I thought I had to make it. So I teamed up with a local like this little plant that made like DIY objects, and we made out of Christmas ornaments and styrofoam that was painted a portable and a portable phone charger that would look like a Pokeball. And it
Oh,
blew up.
nice.
I was featured on
Yeah.
TechCrunch. Like it went wild. And then what happened after that is Pokemon Go phased out. So now
Hmm.
then I was like, but that was amazing. I made all this money, and I was running ads, and it was like all this demand. It was like my phone was going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Then I found a next trend, and then it was oh gosh, the Eagles. The Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, and they were the
Oh, yeah.
underdog, and
Yeah.
so the crowd was wearing these German Shepherd dog masks. So I sold
Mm.
thousands of those. And then what happened after the Super Bowl? It was over. And then I think there was this one's I might get canceled for this, but the Women's March, first Women's March, they were wearing
Hmm.
these pink beanies that had ears,
Yeah.
and so I sold a bunch of those. And then after that, I learned of all the drama of marketing off trends. There's no sustainability. So it was like
Yeah.
no money, lots of money, no money, lots of money. And there's a bunch of other trends that I did. But I feel like there has to be a smarter way to do this. And that's when I first figured out that the best type of business to be an affiliate for or create yourself is to have some type of reoccurring revenue or lifetime customer commissions, because that is the whole world, the secrets of the internet. It's like I was just focused on selling one mask a lot of times and not building and nurturing off like Eagles fans, or like
Hmm.
promoting a product and then like think about that's their first product in my relationship with them. How do I nurture that relationship through like a newsletter and communication, and what are the other products ways I can help them? And then I feel like I learned the hard way because I was like building these little micro businesses based off trends, and they would go away, and it was a lot of work, and sometimes at the end of all the drama I didn't make any money. So I was like, there has to be
Yeah.
a more sustainable way, and luckily there is.
Yeah. I'm sure even you make maybe sometimes lots of top line money, but it's like you have such a small window
Mm.
to try and make that money. And as soon as it's done, it's like real done. So no, I think that I love that. But I also think what you're describing too is a very sensible affiliate process. I think most people start exactly where you said is like, hey, if I could just sell this one item, awesome, right? And you're just happy to hear the chings. Of like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm doing something. Hooray, you know? But again, I think one of the fallacies and problems that many entrepreneurs fall from, and I think this is a really good idea to go kind of transitioning into what the book is about. And I think preventing a lot of this stuff, even if you're not an entrepreneur, but is they think so much about making the money, they don't ever think about keeping the money or using the money that they generate as a resource that is finite, right? Because at the end of the day, we know even if it's your campaigns blowing up, if you have an acquisition thing that is exploding, whether it's because it's a trend product that's just going to die out, or you just had some really good copy that hit a nerve, all of that is finite. It does not last forever. You might be able to come up with the next one, great, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not transitioning to a full business, all those things are temporary. And even good business owners ride a wave of virility knowing that it is going to end, because it always does, whether it's GoPro, whether it's like Dollar Shave Club, there's a a run up of popularity that, you know, Icarus was able to experience as well, right? But if you hold on too long and assume that that's forever, you can let your wings will melt too. And next thing you know, you're sitting there wondering what the next success is going to be, hoping that this cascade and windfall of money just comes your way. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we know that's kind of the fallacy and a lot of issues here, and we could transition to these longer standing businesses that I think is really good. And if we have time, I'd love to circle back to that. But I also really want to talk about, great, whether you're building a long-standing business or with you, you know, whether it's the fly-by-night, come in, so on and so forth. What do you need to start changing in terms of turning that success into something that could be a lot more legacy-oriented? How do you start thinking rich, what have you?
Yes, this is applicable to everyone listening. And even if you're a really high income earner, like, I got some news for you, because I meet a lot of high income earners all the time. And I'm always devastated to hear that their lack of financial literacy, where like even like super high income earners like have nothing invested or are not diversified or investing in crazy things. So let me break this down from the beginning. A skill set that I have to just thank my parents for, from just being raised in a Mexican household, is that I still have today, is the ability to live underneath my means. This is not sexy. You will never see an ad marketing for a course like how to live underneath your means. No, this is this is unsexiest thing in the world. But it is a superpower, because if you can have the ability to live underneath how much money you make, you're already like 99% better than most people, including high income earners, because you can make seven figures. And I know 7-figure earners who live a 7-figure lifestyle and they have nothing saved. So it's crazy. So this is skill set number one, where all this affiliate marketing, entrepreneurship, or 9 to 5, whatever it is you choose, it like you actually want to get to the point where you don't need to do it. Like since I was 33, I had enough money invested that my money that makes money covers all my costs of living, which is incredible. That means anything my business does is extra. And the first way to get there is you have to live underneath your means. Some people like to call this budgeting, but I think that budgeting is a terrible experience, because it's like literally the psychology of loss. It's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's terrible. I'd rather you make money versus cut, because you can only cut so much. And then when it comes to every dollar you make, you need to automate and pay yourself first. And what I mean by that is you are paying your future self. A 9 to 5 job creates a plan called the 401k. Typically, this is like a great starting point. For those of you that are not making super high incomes yet, a Roth IRA is another retirement vehicle you invest in. You max it out. These answer the question of like, are you paying yourself first? You pay yourself. You don't even touch that money. You don't even know it's there. You just automate the process. If you're not automatically investing every dollar you make, then I think you will always lose as an investor because of emotions. Like right now, the stock market's going crazy post election results. And I mean that in an apolitical way. I would say it's just the way the market is. It's like, it seems like it's really bullish. And so if you're not automatically investing, you might look at the market and be like, oh my gosh, it's too expensive. I'm going to wait for it to back down and I'll buy it when it's a little lower, thinking that you might time it. And this is a losing game, because if the market was crashing or going down, you would look at the market and say, I'm going to wait till it goes up, because I don't know if it's going to keep going down lower. So it's like, we're emotional creatures. You're always going to lose, including myself. And I'm a finance expert now, right? So like, you have to automate it. And this is like super important as entrepreneurs. 50% of 6-figure earners live paycheck to paycheck. And then the last thing I want to say in terms of like building legacy wealth is, okay, let's say you're crushing your business, affiliate marketing, you have a super high income, and you are living underneath your means. So you are saving, you got cash in the bank. But then when it comes to investing, dude, you lose it all. Or you're so risky. As an entrepreneur, as an affiliate marketer, how we make money is the riskiest way. It's so risky compared to a stable 9 to 5. But we create this illusion and we normalize our risk. Otherwise, I'd have a panic attack every single day of like, oh my gosh, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know if I'm going to make money. It's like we have to normalize it, where it's like, and we forget that actually what we're doing is risky. And then so we carry that baseline over to investing, and this is where it becomes really tragic. Like I meet 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneurs who don't have anything invested in the stock market, and they invest in things like ape NFTs. They invest in things like wine portfolios. They invest in
The
things
most
like
high risk,
yes,
obscure investments. Yeah.
obscure investments. And so they and which have the ability to do well, but most likely will not do well. And this is why you need to diversify and then protect yourself. You got to do the boring stuff. You got to invest in the stock market and index funds and ETFs, the super boring stuff. Now, I know there's always crypto crazy people, especially because crypto's going up. So all the crypto people came out of the woodwork and be like, crypto, Bitcoin's going to the moon. That's okay. I'm not against it, but just make sure it's like a small percentage of your net worth. But entrepreneurs, because they've normalized risk, they'll put like half of their net worth into Bitcoin. That's so
Yeah.
risky. It's so risky. So ultimately, like if you want to make sure, get to the point one day where you're operating out of, I want to do this, I want to create business, I want to create affiliate offers, which I do, versus I need to, I have to make this work. We have all this pressure that can sometimes be unhealthy. Like you got to pay yourself first and you got to automate it and you got to live underneath your means. And the crazy thing is you don't need to make 6 figures to do that. I was already doing that at 27K a year.
Well, and I love that because one of the things I think is so great, if you could live underneath your means, it provides you not only that equity and savings to invest in whatever that future endeavor might be, but also provides you flexibility when you want to take that career leap. You want to make that big jump, that risk, because now you're taking a risk with a pillow versus taking a risk without a safety net, right? Like you can make sure you have a little bit of a soft landing because you know that, hey, at the end of the day, I could still live off this $27,000 a year job and have leftover, right? So if I take that leftover and put it towards something that, could accelerate me, great, because I'm going to just continue to invest and live this way. So you could be from such a safer place. Like I love that. And then the automation thing I think is so key, so key, because then you don't have to make the decision. Like you said, we're emotional people. We look at the market and then you put that into entrepreneurs. And I think, I love the way you put that we normalize risk so much to be an entrepreneur. You just are normalizing this level of risk of like, sure, I'll spend $50,000 to go invest into creating this thing because I think I could generate a bunch more money. I'm like, that's super high risk. There's no guarantee in that. But because you've done it before, or do you feel the fallacy of like, I can make anything work as an entrepreneur, you'll just figure it out. Finances aren't really that way. Like it's not really predicated on just forcing your will into making it work. So, but I love that because I'd see entrepreneurs get so invested in like the crazy stuff. And it's like, if you did that with an emerging market mindset and you still knew that, hey, I still have to have a stable, like good area of investment and then I could sprinkle some on these crazy things, great. But not, I'm going to put, all my equity. I'm going to take an equity loan and invest it in Dogecoin, right? Maybe that works out in the short term, but probably not the long term for you. So, sorry, you had your hand up with a comment you want to make too. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Who do you think's better investor, women or men?
I actually would think that women are because they're probably more patient to set it and forget it. And men, I think we pair adrenaline oftentimes and testosterone with a lot of our investing, and we get kind of the thrill of the win sometimes. And now you get a gambler's fallacy paired with investing, which could be really, really fun, but also really, really miserable because you're trying to make up for something, or you're just approaching it with a mindset of, I put it this way, you start approaching it with a mindset of a very different game that isn't necessarily safe to be playing.
That's very good. Okay, one more question before I drop some data. Who do you think's a better investor? Women, men, or dead people?
Dead people. They're probably really good because they
It's
sit there
true.
and don't do anything. Yeah.
Exactly. Because now the market's in a rush right now, but let's pretend it was inverse and the market was crashing. So you could have a men or female doing all the right things, and then they look at their like stock market account, they see it's crashing, and then they withdraw, thinking that they're going to time it, and they can jeopardize their entire financial future. So dead people actually perform better than living people because of this one thing. And then also, if you were to take out dead people, or you were to compare men versus women, women are 3 times better investors than men over a 30-year time period because of something that you touched on a couple times. You called it gambler's bias or success bias, confirmation bias. These are the idea, especially as an entrepreneur. Most entrepreneurs have this, that you get used to winning. And so, or you've won once, maybe you won on your first try. This actually could be one of the worst things that could happen if the first thing you launch becomes successful. It creates this idea like, oh my gosh, damn, I'm good.
I could do
Anything I touch
anything.
turns into gold. So
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and do this and this and this. And then because you think you have this confirmation bias, success bias really early on, and this is what's the biggest challenge of young money, is that they're like, oh my gosh, I'm only 18 years old and I'm already making six figures. I got life figured out. And then that confidence will ignore like obvious or not as obvious signs that maybe this next project or this next investment is actually really bad, because your confirmation bias will block you or prevent you from doing the due diligence that you would normally do if you didn't have that success bias. Where women, they suffer less from this.
That's really interesting. It's not a surprise to me, but I really love that idea of like that early success is more of a curse than a benefit. And I think it's one of the things we do as a disservice because we're amazed by early and quick success. Wow, look how crazy this is. Like, think of what the potential could be for this person. But I think the emphasis there should be on could be, because very often and more often than not, it is not an indicator of future success. It tends to be an indicator that it's a really long fall down for most of those people, because you don't get the right lessons. You don't learn the work. Sometimes you don't understand why you were successful in the first place. And so you just are like, oh, okay, this will happen all the time, right? It doesn't. Perry Belcher, I remember he said this. I don't know if it was a podcast we were doing or just a casual conversation, but he always says, like, listen, one of the biggest mistake offer owners make is when they're winning, they assume that it's going to keep happening. It's like anytime you have an offer that's winning, treat it like it'll never happen again, and you'll be better for it. Reinvest it back in your business, reinvest it in things like this is never going to happen again. It's like, if it does happen again, great. Treat that event the exact same way, and you'll be so much better off for it. So I think I mentioned that at least once a quarter on this podcast, but it is so important, and you highlight it so well right there that, yeah, it could create this false sense where you're just kind of sloppy more than anything. So I love that. So, well, let me ask this. So we kind of went through one of the big things is that you need to do is invest in yourself through Roth IRA, through 401k, just automate the process so it just pulls it out. Because that was one thing I really love that you said is the automation. I was at a conference it was a high level mastermind, right? And we had finance people coming in, and that was one of the number one things that people were like, oh my gosh, I need that. And they talked about it. They said, because like you said, 60% of people in six income earners are living paycheck to paycheck, which for those that don't have six figures are like, that's crazy. How could you do that? But they talked about it as like, hey, if the money's there, you will spend it. You're always going to find a way to spend it. So just remove it from being able to be spent through automation and things like that. So I really love that you said that. Invest back in yourself. We kind of talked about understanding the rules of the game. What are some other really key things that people need to know to kind of start thinking rich and shift their mindset, or things that they should start doing?
Yeah, before I answer that, I do want to mention for the high income earners here, like, so the people that you make too much money, you cannot, you can't invest into a Roth IRA. Like, there are strategies, like, as a business. And by the way, I'm not a CPA or a tax consultant, so please ask your tax consultant about this. So we have a few companies, my wife and I, and about a dozen employees. And in one of the businesses, just my wife and I's employees. And guess what? We have a 401k plan. And so we max it out. And guess what? Our employer has 100% match. Oh, that's amazing. How generous of them. It's us. So like, it's like learning of these ways that you can deduct from your taxes. The truth is that every rich person pays a lot in taxes, despite what you might see on the real estate side and stuff. Like, rich people pay a lot in taxes, just the truth. But I think in terms of now answering your question, like, the biggest thing I think that prevents people from achieving success or keeping their success has to do with the way you were raised. And so my co-author, Dr. Brad Klontz, in our book, Start Thinking Rich, he actually pioneered. So if you ever hear this language called money script, he is actually the inventor of this. And he's quoted in pretty much every modern day financial book today. Money script. This is how we our inherited belief on how money works. And guess who we get that from? Our parents. Yay, more things we can blame our parents for.
Yeah.
And you could probably imagine that most people aren't born rich, and so they don't get the best examples or ideas or thoughts about how money works. And so I don't know if you're listening to this, you might have heard this. Maybe you've said it, maybe your parents said it, or luckily maybe they didn't. Rich people are evil. In order to get rich, I have to take advantage of someone. The only people that are rich, like they had to take advantage of people. Or
Mm-hmm.
have you ever seen Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or some other billionaire donate millions and millions and millions of dollars to an amazing cause, and your family or your friends or even your reaction is like, well, they're just doing that for tax write-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you say this? What It's because you have this inherited belief that money is bad. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
to get ahead, it's actually a bad thing. So a lot of people, especially they're born in lower class and middle class, even they have this association because it makes them feel better that they have less, or to have less money is to be more virtuous. None of
Mm-hmm.
this is true. None of this is true. There's stuff in the Bible that talks that they take out of context. That's like, oh, having less money it is what we should have, and we're better people. But there's also stuff in the Bible that talks about like why you should be good and diligent with your money. So it's crazy how much your bias of how you were raised actually affects your lens of how you view the world. And whatever your belief is, this is a chapter in the book, your beliefs about money keep you poor or make you rich. You're going to find examples of it all the time. So if you think rich people are evil, then guess what? Anytime you go on the internet, hear from a friend, you're always going to find examples that prove your belief. And same thing, if like I have an abundance mindset, so when someone becomes wealthy, and I want to learn from them because I believe I can do it too. And so I'm always looking for examples of ways of people of success, because I believe it's true. It's much better to operate from that standpoint. So your beliefs about money affect so much, and a lot of the times our inherited belief actually isn't even from our parents, even though that's who we got it from. It's from your parents. Like they can
Mm-hmm.
inherit generational poverty or wealth, but most of it, like most wealth, isn't passed through, and it's not because money wasn't given. It's because mindset wasn't traded. So this is why they have short sleeves in 3 generations, because you get one family makes the money, the other one has it, and the third one, they've lost the message on mindset of like how to be diligent of money, so then they just spend it, right? So this is huge. So I think, if you have kids, if you're raising a family, what's more important than anything you could leave behind them in terms of an asset or money? It's actually how to think about money, and that is
Mm-hmm.
going to be the most valuable thing that you can leave someone. So the way you think about money affects everything.
Yeah, I love that, and I know that was I remember that was something that really changed a lot for me was when I was at something. It was a big thing, talking about money script, and realizing that I hadn't thought of like I didn't think that money was the root of all evil or anything like that, but I did definitely have negative connotations with a hyper level of wealth and business owners in particular, and it became this kind of limiting factor in that like anytime like success or even like starting a business came up, I'd always have this resistance I couldn't place. Right, I couldn't place it. But it was when somebody said, "Hey, money is just a resource. It is just a resource." We assign emotional meaning to it. And when someone said that and I started thinking, I was like, dude, I do assign a lot of emotional meaning to it. And you explore why and kind of disconnect from that. And you're like, oh, this is just a resource to be put in place. Money is not evil. Now, evil people could do a lot of things with resources, but that's agnostic of the resource they choose to use because it's not always money that people choose to do bad things. So, it was really, really telling. But yeah, when you kind of relieve yourself from those things, it does open up your world quite a bit. I do think that's hard sometimes. For some of us, it might be really, really challenging to get past those things. And I would say, put in the work, do whatever it might be. But it's such a healthier place when you can remove those emotions around whatever the money is going to do and just think of it as a resource. Because you ask the question, what is this resource doing for me? What do I want it to do for me? And it really could help shifting some things for you. So I love that. Are there any things that you would recommend for people? I'm sure the book probably talks about this in detail, but of how to go about and maybe start shifting or at least uncovering what your money script might be.
Yeah. Well, I do have a specific resource that we actually made just for all the listeners here, and it's going to be on ClickBank. So startthinkingrich.com/clickbank. And it actually is literally a money script exam that my co-author, Dr. Brad Klontz, invented. And this actually is not for sale anywhere else. The only people that get it are the people that work with him. And by the way, if you want to work with him, you have to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's like the therapist for billionaires. So this is a really great opportunity. I think if you want to, it's literally like it's going to take 20 minutes, like an exam that you're taking. It's going to tell you your money scripts because there's different kinds. It'll let you know, like almost like a assessment of your personality percentage wise to help you give awareness. So that's for sure one resource if those people are really intrigued. Like, what is my money script?
Amazing. Dude,
Yeah.
that is so freaking cool. And by the way, guys, I really had no idea. That wasn't me trying to serve up like an awesome. I mean, it would be a great transition. Don't get me wrong, but that's amazing. That's amazing, Aiden. Like, I know as soon as we'll make sure to put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
If you can just send it over to us, we'll put it in the show notes, guys. So look at that. Go there. I know as soon as you send it to me, I am going to go test it out right away because that just sounds amazing. So you'll have access to something like that and unlock that so fast.
Awesome. And I think the first thing is like kind of awareness. Having awareness of like how you operate around money is the first step. Also, I think this is a great question for everyone to see like where you're at. How much of the world happens to you, and how much of it happens in your surrounding world, like happens because of you. How you think about this question determines a lot about your psychology and how you operate. There's a commonality between successful people. They have what's called an internal locus of control. This is a fancy psychology words for basically saying, I believe most of my life is in my hands. I affect the outcomes. And so most common and successful people, that they believe they have the majority of their life is in their hands and their ability. And then what you see a commonality between poor people is they believe that the world happens to them and they can do nothing about it. And I want to be clear on my language. Sometimes using the word poor is like seems very harsh. And again, it's always a way of thinking. I just want to always remind people, I'm not talking about people on the streets or stuff like that. I'm talking about a way of thought. So if you are complaining about whoever is president and how that's going to affect you, maybe that actually is true because you're a politician or a lobbyist. But if you're not, the president affecting you most likely is not going to be the reason that is stopping you from achieving your next level of wealth or success or financial freedom. The government, same with like your boss, like there, these things do exist, but and successful people have they look inside to basically change and make the outcome. So how you view the world is the first step into like if you're ready to build wealth and legacy. Because if you're operating from, well, the stock market does this to me and Bitcoin went down on me and my boss is lame and that's why, and you always have this excuse, you're operating from an external locus of control. So you're going to first have to change that. And I have to be honest, that's a hard thing to change. But once you do, and you take an honest look at where you're at, especially if it's not where you want to be, that's the first step. And being like, okay, I got myself here. Guess what? I can also get myself there.
Yeah. And you know, I agree. That is, I've seen people that just find themselves leaning towards that space, right? The woe is me. And I want to always say like, it's always a woe is me. I think and I know we use the term like victim mentality, and it's just very negative connotation. And I really want to shift away from that because a lot of people, there's actually value in this, and it's a survival tactic oftentimes for a lot of people to keep motivated in doing what they're doing. If you could disconnect from the lack of success or lack of whatever you're having as being an exterior force, then maybe you could deal with what's happening to you on a daily basis easier. But I think one of the things I always question when I talk to people is like, how nice would it be to feel like you have control? Because oftentimes we're saying these things because, you know, if we don't have control, then we don't have to look inwards about the new things we have to do. We don't have to get unstuck out of our surroundings because that's hard. It's uncomfortable. And you might fail at it, right? You might not be able to get unstuck in the way you thought you would, but you will grow and be better for it every single time. Just going like was doing jujitsu with the kids and for myself, and I quote what our professor said that was always really, really good for life. He said, if you're in a position that you don't like, move, go into a different position. And I was like, life is no different, kids. If you don't like where you are, there might be something going on. It might be this, it might be that, but ultimately you always have the control to find a way to move to a different position and just go find that different position. And it's like, I drill that into them all the freaking time because I think it's very, very powerful. And for all
I
those
love
out
it.
there, like I think one of the biggest things I would even recommend, because it is very challenging to do. One of the biggest things I would do, and I struggle with this. I'm not a great journaler, but when you need to do something hard and shift your mindset, I've never found anything more effective than taking the time to intentionally write out whatever you seem to not naturally do. So if you aren't naturally somebody that takes that control once a day, whether it's at the end of the day, beginning of the day, write down the things that you're like, I could do this, I could do this, and tomorrow I will, right? And I think that finishing with that last piece, tomorrow I will, not I should, not shame, right? We don't put the shame of things we didn't do. We just, hey, I could have done this, I could do this, I could do this, and tomorrow I will. And just be better the next day. But if you have control over your own progress in your own life, holy crap, that is a rich mindset. Because I think one thing that's important, success is now defined by what you could control, not what happens to you. And now we could have a longer term mindset. We could change the way we look at things and open up so many opportunities. This is really just so powerful and so awesome. And I just love that mindset shift. So beautiful. I know we're getting actually close to coming up on an hour here. I'm realizing I feel like we're just getting started because I just love this stuff so much. But I love Adrian. So one of the things I'd love to kind of pinpoint here, and you mentioned earlier, was the idea of budgeting. Now we know we are in a time, and I think just for a lot of people, one, the economy is in a tough spot for a majority of Americans. I won't say all of them because there's still some people that are in very good positions. I think when we see the bullishness on the stock market, that also isn't a surprise to me because of a lot of individuals in great positions, but there's a lot of us that right now are feeling like they're not in a great position, whether it might be business has gone down, inflation's gone up, whatever it might be, lots of different reasons, right? But you're in this time, you're looking at a budget, you're looking at Christmas, you're looking at the holidays, you're looking at whatever you might celebrate. You're looking at a time of gross spending, right? Spending is going to increase for most people during these times. So with that being said, what is a very effective, maybe, I don't want to use the word budgeting, but we'll call it a cost control tactic for people to maybe focus on during these times when they feel pressure to spend, yet they don't necessarily feel like they have the money to do it. So how can they make sure they exit this period without, debt and misery and setting themselves back, but still kind of navigating through a weird time? And I know I didn't preface you for a question like this, so I'm sorry. It might be
No,
really hard to answer, but it feels like a great answer to hear for people right now.
well, I feel like I need to before I share my answer, I had a little bit of context because I'm going to have a very different answer from most people, almost avoiding this concept entirely, which is not going to be fun to hear, especially if kids and family and friends. But like at points in my life have been an extreme minimalist. I've lived out of a backpack for 2 years in Europe. I've also lived in a van for a year. That's why I got really popular. I actually drove my van for my first interview to ClickBank.
Yep.
A few years ago. And so I'm almost an anti-consumer. Now, today I want to make super clear. I have a really nice house, super modern. I have a pickleball court, costs $40,000 to put in. I have a sauna and cold plunge, really nice. But still, everything I own I feel like I'm not a minimalist anymore. I'm like more of an intentionalist. In my house, you can open up cupboards that will be empty. That's my proof, right? Most Americans, every single crevice is full of stuff because we get sucked into consumerism. And one thing I hate about consumerism, it's a love-hate relationship. I love it because people spend money on stuff and I can market to them. I hate it because I think consumerism has ruined holidays and now has created this marketed obligation that we need to buy, and that buying and gifting stuff and materials is like a correlation to how much we love someone, and I hate that because it is not true. It's not true at all.
Yeah.
Like you can judge me all you want, but my wife and I, we don't buy each other presents on Christmas. We don't. I love her.
I have not done it since with my wife for like 16 years. So I totally get that. Yeah.
And we have an amazing relationship. I feel like we go on date nights and we spend money on our experiences instead of objects. And eventually you get to a point, if you're doing all these things, you get to a point of financial freedom. You'll learn this too, that the best money you could spend is on experience. It doesn't come in a shape in a box that you unwrap. That's the same for the people that you love and yourself. And gifting experience is always much better because those experiences are what you remember. So usually like the Christmas present, I like your idea of opening up conversation, like what's the best Christmas present you got? And like if I was to kind of use it for my narrative, I would say, okay, when did the appeal wear off of that present? Because usually there's an answer. And so like when I think of like the best fondest memories I've ever had, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, when I got this bicycle. No, I don't think about the bicycle anymore. Like I was really happy in the moment, probably a couple weeks after, and probably 6 months after, I was like, it just was a bike or whatever the present was. Maybe you're
Yeah.
different, but I think in terms of like, I think of like life experiences when my dad took me to his Mexico village, and we went Hawaiian sling fishing, and I was 11. So I'm 35 now, and I remember that like it was yesterday. That experience changed my life. Like that's what I think about when I think of like what's the best way to gift people. It's the gift experiences, and experience doesn't always come with a price tag. It's something that you can create. So I would encourage you to explore that way, because it's sickening to me, especially because I had a marketing agency that I exited earlier this year, and our clients were credit unions. By the way, credit unions over banks for sure. But the entire
Yeah.
industry knows that everyone's about to spend so much money. And then guess what they market to you in January? Credit card balance transfer, because you've racked up so much debt. It's sad. Don't be another stat that's marketed to a credit card balance transfer. Try to think creatively about experience. And the truth is, once you achieve financial freedom, you'll learn no object ever buys happiness. It's more about owning your time and experience.
Dude, just round of applause. Like, I love that. Like, I love it. Particularly, well, I will tell you, I am always a cusp away during the holidays of ranting about how we have ruined our holidays through consumerism, whether it's you have to have the right kind of costume that says this, or you have to buy the king size candy bars and decorate your house a certain way, down to the proliferation of gifts that you have to give out for everybody. And my wife has to hear me probably multiple times from now until January about the ridiculousness of what you have to give gifts for. And so, funny enough, we've really strayed away from doing anything like, even when it comes down to our kids, we focus on what is a new hobby that we could get for them. Like, what's an experience that we could, it's like, it's not what they necessarily ask for, but like, I bought my son a skateboard one year, and we invested on like a decent enough skateboard just to see if he would try it, right? To go and try it. And then, I only got like 4 months out of that, but it was still so good to watch him go jump into it head first and just try a hobby. And he'll remember that a lot more than the actual gift was the attempt at doing it, even if he didn't pick it up. Right. And so I agree with you so much. It's the objects, they're just so flat. You spend all this time and stress. You go through what feels like a 2-hour period of real excitement for that. And then it just starts dissipating at a half-life that is far too rapid. But the thing that is always the biggest joy is, I think, the glow of time spent with each other afterwards anyway, right? Where time doesn't exist. You're just eating food that's filled with love and spending time in this aura. And for me, definitely watching football or basketball, you just kind of absorb all that joy. So I love that, man. I love it because you're right. With experiences, when I would do gifts, when my wife and I were broke as crap, it was always an experience, whether it was a coupon book or just a promise to do something together and commit to it. We did a lot of like adventure nights, like where we just come up with the gift was, I had a theme and I construct a future date night around an experience, because we're like, we can't afford that right now, but when we do, this is what it's going to be built to. And those were some of the funnest things that we ever had. Or sometimes you get crafty, and I just paid a friend that was a graphic designer to make a custom piece of art one time. But it was very affordable, right? So I couldn't agree with you more. So that I love that, because I think it's a perfect message right now. And I love that the other thing I want to call it, an intentionalist. We should all be intentionalists, right? If there's intention, there's not waste, because intention is always, even if it doesn't work, it's always good intention. It starts from a place of positivity. So I love that. And with that, I think this is just a great way to end it off, as we all rant and rave against consumerism and move ourselves into becoming intentionalist versus consumerist. I love that. But with that, for Adrian, for the people that are just like, man, one, I want to get this book. I want to start thinking rich myself, because I do, as we've talked in this, I think we could just hopefully highlight, no matter where you are, whether you are very, very successful to where you might be, I should say this, it's not that you're not successful. You were just not at the level of income, and it might be up here or down here. It doesn't matter, but you want to be successful regardless of your income level. this is the book that you need to invest in. So how can people get a hold of it? And how can they get in contact with you if they'd like to as well?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Kyle. It's been a blast. And the book Start Thinking Rich is available wherever you get books. But I do want to emphasize, if you are really serious about, I think the first step to financial freedom and understanding your psychology of money, because I make an assumption right now that you actually know the tactics. You actually do know that you should save. You should know that you shouldn't rack up credit card debt. I assume you know these things. But why do we do them? It's because our psychology is holding us back. So the money script exam that is really pioneered by Dr. Brad Klontz, it's going to be my very first offer on ClickBank. And I think anyone that has a desire to achieve financial freedom should take it. And so that's going to be at startthinkingrich.com/ClickBank. And that's our first, my first ClickBank offer finally of putting something on. And then I'm on social media. You can look me up, Adrian Brambila. And that on top of getting the exam, you'll get put into our community as well. And that is free. So I think financial freedom, how I define it, is not by actually any dollar sign or stuff that you own. It's when you wake up every single day, is your day designed because you want to do these things or because you have to? So that is freedom of your time. And I do believe retirement is an illusion. I plan on always creating and doing something. The idea to sit and do nothing as like the thing that your destination is for. This is what was marketed to us and our parents, and that's why it's so hard for them to retire. It's like, well, I don't want to do nothing. So that's why it's important today that you start finding things that you love to do, that you'll always do no matter how much money that you make.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. There's no reason to. Retirement is not a destination. It's an active thing that you're participating in daily, right? So I love that, man. This was so good. So we're going to make sure the show notes are in there. We'll get your socials as well so you guys can follow Adrian. And then definitely next time we see each other in person, I might have to pull you out of some of your dance tutorial stuff because these hips do lie. They are not very good. I could definitely probably use some help on a pop and lock or a robot. But for all those folks out there, please go and just go to the links. Follow Adrian. Definitely take the money script quiz. That is just mind-blowing and will change your life. I can tell you I went through probably a similar exercise, and it was very, very eye-opening and life-changing. I couldn't recommend it enough. Please rate, review, subscribe, do all the things, and send us at affiliated@clickbank.com. Especially be on the lookout, too. We're going to have some new branding coming your way. Really, really exciting. They actually made me look good in a photo. So we know that there was immense work that was done into this rebrand. So be sure to look out for that. And then also tell us, what are the problems and challenges that you'd like to hear more about? What are the people you'd like us to interview? We're always looking looking out for your feedback. It means a lot to us. Or even it's just to say, hey, we really appreciate the impact that you've had. Because whether it's for one of our guests or for us, it really does mean a lot as we go out here and try and have fun, but we do it for you, the listeners. So with that, Thomas isn't here, so I will send a happy scaling in his stead. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Thanks so much, Adrian.
Thank you.